So today we're going to make dukkah. Dukkah is an Egyptian nut, spice, and seed blend. Sometimes it has herbs in it like mint as well, but we're not doing that today. Today, let me show you what we've got. Ordinarily, I make dukkah with hazelnuts and sometimes pistachios, but today we're doing pecans, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, fennel seed. This is ground cumin, ground coriander, kosher salt, and ground black pepper. And that's all we're going to be putting into it today, and it's super quick. And I'll also show you how you might choose to use it. So we're going to start by toasting the nuts and seeds. So the nuts take a little bit longer because they're bigger, and we're going to just put them in a dry pan. This happens to be a cast iron pan, but it doesn't have to be a dry frying pan on a fairly high heat. Now you can do this in the oven as well, but if you do it in the oven, it's more likely to burn. Or at least that's been my personal experience, that it's harder to watch in the oven.
Is high heat better than low or medium for this?
Yeah, I think what you're trying to do is toast, and they're not going to be in there for very long.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a high heat's pretty good, and you just need to keep it moving either by moving your pan or by swishing it around with some sort of utensil. So once your nuts have toasted a bit and they start to smell nutty and toasty.
Oh, that's a low hanging punchline.
Yeah, you can skip that, okay? So once they're all nutty and toasty, we're gonna add the seeds, which in this case we've got a quarter cup, that was a half cup of pecans by the way, quarter cup of sesame seeds, and 2 tablespoons of raw sunflower seeds. And then we've also got a teaspoon and a half of fennel seed here. So this is the whole seed, it's not ground.
Now sesame seeds come in the roasted and the raw variety. Why are you using the raw variety here?
I'm using the raw variety because I'm toasting them with everything else. If I had a finished product and I was sprinkling sesame seeds on top, I would probably use the toasted ones. But because I'm toasting everything else, we might as well toast them all together. And you can also use here black sesame seeds. You can use a mixture of black and the whiter ones. It's totally up to you. But the sesame definitely adds an important flavor, I think. And every recipe I've seen for dukkah includes sesame.
Now I know when you do like an Indian roasting thing, you put them all in at different times because they all roast at different rates. So you're just tossing them all in there? Or?
Well, no. I did put the pecans in first, then I put all the seeds in, and then I'm going to put my ground things in and my kosher salt at the very end because they're ground and they need less time.
Fair enough.
So you can see, well, you probably can't see, but things are getting slightly...
We can get closer.
Yeah, why don't you?
I'm going to zoom in, eh? Zoom in, eh?
Take off, eh? This is a Canadian show. So you can see that things are getting a little bit toasty over there. Yeah, you can stop that now. Yeah. Anyway, so now that we've got our seeds and our nuts, like I said, keep them moving so they don't burn. Once you've burned them once, you're very careful after that usually. I speak from experience. I'm going to add, this is half a teaspoon of ground cumin, half a teaspoon of ground coriander. We happen to buy all our spices whole, and I ground them before we started shooting because you don't need to see me do that. You can buy them pre-ground, but in my experience they lose their flavor, especially if they're sitting on like a supermarket shelf and they've been there for 2 years. You have no way of knowing. So,
and if you're lucky enough to live next to an Indian grocery, that's probably the best place to buy them, because you can buy them in bulk instead of those little jars of terrible Empress spices that you...
It's starting to smoke, so I'm going to remove it from the flame because I think it's actually hot enough so that when we add our black pepper and our salt, so the salt was half a teaspoon, the ground black pepper was a quarter teaspoon. They don't actually need to be toasted, so I'm not too worried about that, and I just don't want our alarm to go off, nor do I want to turn the fan on because you won't be able to hear me. So that's kind of it, and it smells great. I wish you could smell this. It's just lovely, and it doesn't really look like much. In fact, it looks like bird seed at this point. But what we're going to do is we're going to grind it. Now, if I make a large batch of this, I grind it in the food processor because it can handle that. But this is a pretty small batch, and I think traditionally it was done with a mortar and pestle, and yes, we could do that, but we're not going to this time. So I'm going to use our magic bullet for that because it's small, right? You could also use a coffee grinder that you use, not be cleaning the coffee out if you use it for coffee. We have one that we keep that's dedicated for spices only, but it's smaller than the food processor, and I mean it's smaller than the magic bullet. So I didn't want something as small as a coffee grinder, and I didn't want anything as big as the food processor, which is why I'm going for the magic bullet. Anything you use though, be careful that you don't turn this into a nut and seed butter by letting it go too long. If you grind it too long, the oils start to release and you'll start to get a nut butter. And what we're looking for is a spice powder here. Okay?
So do you really have to let it cool down a lot before you grind it? Or?
You don't.
Okay. Oh, really?
In
Okay.
fact, most of the recipes I've seen do tell you to cool it down. I got to tell you, I'm impatient and I never do. And I've never had a problem.
That does smell good.
Other than maybe burning myself. So, what I'm going to do, as you can see, the pan is hot. I'm going to do my best to get this all in there.
I can smell the cumin and coriander.
Yeah, it's pretty good, hey? A few escapees, but we'll catch them.
Away.
Run, flee! We'll catch them, don't you worry. Whoa. You know what? That's good enough for this. Good enough for rock and roll. We got the one escape pecan. So, as I said, I haven't had a problem with needing to wait for it to cool down, but hey, there's the first time. Maybe
Until
something
now.
horrible will happen because I didn't wait for it to cool down. So, loud noise. And then I tend to give it a shake because you don't want, like I said, the stuff at the bottom turning to butter and the stuff at the top is still chunky. I think that's mostly got it. It's pretty darn quick. One more. Let's see how we did. So you see, a little bit of oil has started to release and that's why it clumps up like that. But that's not a problem for us. I'm just gonna put it all into the bowl there.
Oh, that smells good.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just want to show you what you might do with Dukkah now that you have it. Okay, so there's your beautiful Dukkah. This is not homemade, although I do make some flatbreads.
Oh, the shame.
Please don't bring it up in public. It hurts. Anyway, this is a Persian flatbread that we bought that I'll write it down below, but I'm not going to pronounce it because I've never actually heard it said. I only have seen it spelled, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it, so I'm not even going to say it. It's a lovely flatbread, though. And then I've already poured a little bit of olive oil in one side of that.
It's like you planned ahead.
I did. I'm channeling Julia Child. Well, maybe not. I didn't drop anything, did I? So, a little Dukkah in there. And so, this is a nice way if you have company over. And the very first time I had Dukkah was at a friend's house just like this. Take off a piece of bread, dip it in the oil, dip it in your spice and nut blend, and
Okay, do your food ranger thing now.
ah, so good. Anyway, I actually wasn't sure with pecans because I love it with hazelnuts and I love it with pistachios, but you know what? Pecan's pretty good too. So the other thing that I like to use Dukkah for is an avocado toast. Now, I've been eating avocado on bread my whole life, and I think it's funny that now it's called avocado toast and it's a thing, but whatever. what I'm going to show you is a little bit of avocado on some bread. And once you've had this, for me anyway, it's really hard to go back to having it by itself. Give a little smush.
That's a technical term.
It is. It's very technical, right? And yeah, probably shouldn't be putting that in there, but I am. And there you have that.
Let's see now.
So to me, that's one of the best ways to use dukkah is on avocado. Another, you can put it on eggs. You can top a salad with it. You can sprinkle it on a soup. You could use it as the base for a pesto by adding maybe some basil or parsley or cilantro or something like that. There are all sorts of things that you can do with it. Basically, it is an excuse for yumminess. So there you go. There's your dukkah. I hope you make it. I hope you like it. Real food.